Hi, I'm Mark from eReplacementParts.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the upper armature bearing on a Porter Cable 690 router. The upper armature bearing on your Porter Cable router is about half the size of the lower bearing, and it seems to wear out a lot faster. Common signs that your bearing is wearing out will be a ticking sound, or the bearing starting to squeal. Replacing the upper armature bearing is easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. Upper armature bearings, as well as many other parts, can be found on our website. Let's get started. I'll begin by removing the router motor from the router's base. And now I'll go ahead and remove the two screws that secure the cap to the motor. Now I'll remove the brushes so that they don't get hung up on the bearing as we remove the top half of the motor housing. Now I'll make a reference mark between the upper and lower motor housings. This will just make it easier to line everything up when we go to put it back together. Now I can remove the two screws that secure the upper half of the motor housing to the lower half. And a few taps with the rubber mallet will help me to separate these two pieces. With the top half of the motor housing removed, I have access to the top armature bearing. And you can hear that this bearing is dry when I spin it and needs to be replaced. I'll use a bearing puller to remove the upper bearing. I'll line up the center post of the puller on the dimple on the end of the armature shaft and then go ahead and pull the bearing. Now I can install the new bearing. I'm going to apply just a very small amount of grease to the end of the armature shaft. This will make installing the new bearing a little bit easier. Place the bearing onto the shaft, and using a socket the same diameter as the inner race on the bearing, I'll tap it into place. Now I can reinstall the lower half of the motor housing to the upper half. I'll insert the armature through the field. Make sure that it lines up properly with the top half of the housing and line up our reference marks that we made earlier. Just like that. And I'll secure the upper and lower halves of the motor housing with the screws. Now I can reinstall the cover. I just want to make sure I have all the wires tucked in and make sure that nothing's going to get pinched, especially in this area, when I put the cover back on. Now I can reinstall the brushes. The brush just slides into the brush holder. Then I line up these tabs on the end of the brush wire with the slots in the brush holder. Hold that in place and slide one of the caps on. This part can be a little tricky. It might take a couple of tries to get all that lined up. Then I'll secure the brush with a screwdriver. You want to be careful not to over tighten these or you will crack them. And I do that same thing on the other side. and I'll finish up by reinstalling the base. And that's all it takes to replace the upper armature bearing on a Porter Cable 690 series router. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment.